Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I have a really cool video for you guys, and it is the second wave of the Tekken Game Dimensions action figures. Wave 1, Kazuya and Heihachi Mishima, are the second most successful video on this channel, all thanks to me managing to be the first person to do a review on them on YouTube, and we're hoping to do the same this time, although I'm not sure. Now, these have come out a little bit early. They were due to come out in March in the UK. I honestly didn't know these were out until my brother messaged me asking if I had any of them yesterday. And a quick Google and I found out they were indeed out, so I immediately searched them up. But I wasn't able to get a deal on them this time. Last time I got them on In-Demand Toys for £2 cheaper than retail price. This time I wasn't able to find anything less than retail price. God, struggling to get it in the box here. So I just went with Amazon so that we could get them as quickly as possible and do the video, and we also don't have any add-on postage on top either. So my apologies about this male portion of the video. I didn't expect it to be as much of a fail as it has been, to be honest. But I thought we'd just do the mail opening quickly, especially since there was that big honking dent in the top of the box. But it looks like they are pretty good condition. We have King here, which I must say is looking good out of the box. Like, this is actually looking significantly better than I thought. And we also have Jin Kazama. So we're going to get the box out the way. That whole thing was probably a bad idea. I probably shouldn't have bothered doing that. And we'll get the figures stood up out here for you guys. So first things first, since they're both fight posed, is to have them facing each other on the right side. In the Kazuya and Heihachi video, I had them this way around. If I'm completely honest, I wasn't really thinking of them in terms of like looking at each other. I just put them on the desk, but it's bothered me ever since. Now, a few other notes on the line that I didn't really get to go into in the first Game Dimensions video. First of all, there's some articulation that I didn't mention, which I will get into, although I'm sure a lot of people now know what the articulation is like if they were interested in the figures, etc. I'll still mention it. I'll also talk about the scale, and finally, I'm going to talk right now about some further thoughts on the figure line. So first of all, as I already mentioned, I wasn't able to get these any cheaper than retail price, which would be fine, except these are definitely too expensive at retail price. Like, I still just think that that is a fact. You know, it's unfortunately a needs-must situation, but when you think about it, these are, you know, maybe a bit better than anime heroes, maybe a bit bigger than anime heroes, and on par with, if not below, I would say, the Jada Toys Street Fighter figures. So $27.99 per figure is a little bit steep still. That being said, I am glad they exist, and I do also think that, like a lot of action figures nowadays, they actually look better in hand than they do on the digital renders, which I'm sure is something I probably said when I opened Heihachi and Kazuya. And one final point about that video, if you did check that one out, thank you guys for watching. It's been great just getting the views over time on that video. It's really cool. Now, King is probably the character. He's not my favorite Tekken character, but because I'm primarily a wrestling figure channel, he is probably the one I wanted the most because I wanted to use it with my wrestling figures. Jin, of course, is the protagonist, so I think that is a very fair place to go as the second figure in the wave. But it's been 7 months. I thought it had been longer than that, but it's been 7 months since Game Dimensions Series 1 came out. And these guys have finally came out. Granted, they've come out a little bit early in the UK again. But there's only 2 of them. Tekken 8, as advertised on the boxes, is now out. And you would have thought they'd want to capitalize on that, but actually no, we've only got 2 figures that they'd already kind of shown us. And in addition to that, we've only got the 2 figures that they previewed back when the first wave came out. And as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I'm aware, we don't even know what Series 3 is yet. So 7 months, 2 figures, 2 years, 4 figures, it's not the greatest, you know, it's not the quickest figure line ever. But luckily, you know, again, it's a case of needs must. I'd rather pick them up than not have them, quite honestly. Since King is meant to be the next figure in the line, and it's the one I'm the most excited about, I'm going to do him first, I think. And although I didn't do this last time, I think I'm going to do the unboxing in my wrestling ring this time, especially since it's relevant to King, and it just lifts the figure up a little bit, making it easier to put in frame. So first of all, here we have Tekken Game Dimensions Wave 2 Tekken 8 King action figure. And now, as I said in the mail opening part of the video, this thing looks awesome. Like, this thing looks so much better than it did on the renders. Honestly, when I first saw the promo images, I thought it looked really cool. And then when I saw them again recently, I thought, you know what? Actually, they aren't that great. But the amount of detail in that tiger mask is so much better than what I was expecting. Both in terms of like the stripes, the paint, the colouring, and indeed the finer hairs in there. That's really, really cool. And he looks really good. Like, he looks really savage. That's nice. Now, of course, he also comes with the fight stand to follow on from the ones with Heihachi and Kazuya. Round 1, ready, fight, and round 2 comes with Jin. We also get this power burst along with him. We get a spare pointing gloved finger, which is really cool. And we get a spare sort of, I guess it's the same hand, but I mean, the fingers look like they're out a little bit more on the black one, of his black gloved hand. So that's really cool. And down here we have the stand that holds the fight symbol up. Of course, we've got the render of Tekken 8 King on the side there, which kind of makes this figure feel a little bit weaker, maybe. You know, if you're wanting anything in this kind of region, then you were after a Storm Collectibles of King, which, fair play, is a beautiful figure. Now, this, I guess, is the stereotypical King attire, and it is exactly what you would probably want him in if you could only have a figure of him in one gear. So it's a good thing they went with this one. And I kind of feel like he looks a lot bigger than the other guys, which means he might scale better with my WWE Elites, which would be really cool because that's what I want him for, of course. And this thing looks way above my expectations, particularly from this figure line. But one criticism that all my wrestling figures get, and you're no exception, King, is that he doesn't have any open grip hands, so he can't hold any weapons or anything. You wrestle, King, no exceptions. I've seen you hit people with a steel chair in the cinematic videos. I have seen it. Open hands, please. And of course, if it was Storm Collectibles, we'd have like 15 different hands to choose from, but that's by the by. We have the awesome sort of 3D Game Dimensions logo there, and this really cool, just, I guess, flavor texturing on the box, which is, you know, it's very nice. The Tekken 8 logo on the side. And on the back, we have got a posed picture of the King figure. Like, look at that. That does not look as good as this looks. Like, no way in hell does that look the same. I mean, for one thing, the body tone obviously looks terrible there, whereas it actually looks like skin there. Anyway, we've got the posed picture of King there with his power fist. We've got Jin as the next figure and the thing, and we have the teaser here that we need to unlock the next two figures. Now, wouldn't this be a cool way to preview it if by buying the figure or by looking at the figure on the box, you found out what the next wave was going to be? That would be pretty cool. Here's a picture of King from Tekken 8, of course. Again, looking significantly better than this figure could ever really hope to look. And we have a couple of other kind of in-game screenshots there, and a load of legalese and, you know, factory details, all that kind of stuff. Remember to recycle. Apparently in France and Italy, you can recycle the Pepsi, the Petit, and the Pap 20. In French, you can donner ou recycler. And I guess in other countries, you can't recycle it, which is obviously not true. So I think that's more or less everything. So we may as well stop waffling on and get into the unboxing of this Game Dimensions King figure. So glad to finally have this, by the way, guys, if I haven't made that clear already. The tape in these boxes, is the tape? Yes, it's just a single round piece at the top there. And then you're able to just lift the flap out and just slide the whole thing out. And the background in this instance Again, we need to just fold the tab in for that. Try and do that delicately. It's probably as delicate as we're going to get. Why does that stick out like that? So we got one half of the Iron Fist tournament arena that doesn't stand up too good. Is that right? It's got to be right. It's got to be right. That's where the tab goes in. Like what? Anyway, that looks cool. Whatever the heck is going on with that, but we'll just leave it off to the side if it's just going to be in the way. Or in fact, actually, can we jam it under the ropes? That'll do, won't it? That looks fine, doesn't it? I think. Yeah. Let's take a look at King in the bubble. Really, really cool. We've got this kind of front flap, which is also taped down. So we just take that tape off and flip that up, and then we are allowed access to the goodies inside, and everything falls straight out. Nothing is like firmly in place here. Even that just falls out eventually. And I'm pretty sure the figure just slides out as well. Ooh, that's not a good start. That's suspect. So we'll get that out the way, and we'll stand him up straight. And we'll start taking a look at him. So, first of all, in case anyone was wondering, the tiger mask is very open around the neck. So, first of all, if anyone was wondering, no, it is not removable. No, there is nothing under... Well, there might be something underneath. There might be a face underneath if you want to kind of saw into yours for $27.99 to find out. This torso joint is giving me a little bit of cause for concern, but I mean, that's not bad, you know, it's not super bad. And actually, that waist isn't great either, is it? But, you know, they can hold the shape, so that's not too bad. Like I say, he is a big figure. He is a chunky boy. Let's have a close-up on the mask there. So there is the mask. I really do think this is pretty good quality, especially compared to sort of what I was expecting. And of course, it's one of the rare instances where an action figure having a fixed single head doesn't really matter all that much, because this is what he looks like in the games anyway, you know? This is what his mask looks like. We've got the one kind of blue arm with the elbow pad and the blue glove. That waist gap is really big, isn't it? Like, I know that that's articulated and everything, but that on its own is kind of jarring. And the other arm is just kind of naked. In fact, I wonder why he's got this skin-coloured wristband. I'm going to assume that's maybe just from there, from that arm, and it's just been maybe swapped over. But then, I don't know, they have to take all the sculpting out of this out anyway. So I don't really know what they're going for there. But yeah, we've got the black glove on that side. And then look at these trunks. The blue and yellow and white classic King attire. We got the King on the side there. We got the knee pad, the yellow boot. I mean, that looks great, doesn't it? You know me, guys. You know I love the yellow stuff. And that's why I love this yellow knee pad as well. We got the K on that side. Just a really nice use of colour and costume design on this one for King, isn't it? And we've got the back view there. It's really cool. And the tail, which is articulated. I can't say it was my main concern for the figure, but that is really cool. And I do hope this isn't going to get in the way of, you know, as much as, you know, you want King to have a tail, I hope it's not going to get in the way of any figure posing or, in my case, figure animations, anything to that effect that the figure might be used for. And now let's check the joints. So first of all, the head goes side to side, but there's no kind of up and down with these. Now you see the Tekken figures, as we'll get into with Jin, they actually have an articulated neck. But again, this isn't going to matter too much with that mask in the way. However, it would be kind of garbage if you realized because you're only moving the head, you know, if your neck joint got turned and then it was just kind of stuck with his neck to the side, that would kind of suck. We have one nice stiff shoulder here, and one thing I didn't really mention in the previous video is that the shoulders do go slightly forwards and backwards, making a kind of faux butterfly joint that obviously isn't as effective as a butterfly joint, but it is also hidden. So, you know, you take the good with the bad. The arm, the bicep is fine, and we've got the double jointed elbows, which is nice. It really is the least we could ask for this price point. Then we have the wrist and interchangeable hand on the top there. And as you can see, it is articulated around where the fist goes in. Now, what you're seeing here is another thing I missed off on the last video, is that they actually have a kind of articulated lean, which is very useful for, you know, pausing them, dodging attacks and stuff like that. Let's put that wrist down. You kind of look weird. It's really cool. Now, the Kazuya and Heihachi, because of the design of the figures, they could only move so far, but the King figure has a really good range of movement there. And of course, he does also have that forwards and backwards on that waist joint, as well as the torso joint, which is concerning me a little bit, but like I say, it can hold its shape, so it's not too much of a bother. This shoulder is exactly the same, of course, with the bicep is fine. This is still a double jointed elbow. The elbow pad is just on the other side of the articulation, like that's underneath it. And then of course we have the same interchangeable hand. These do feel very loose, I won't lie. And I changed the hands on my Kazuya once, and it feels like they never recovered. And that ab joint is definitely moving a lot, but it can hold its shape, so I'm trying not to worry about it too much. It's been a long time since I had a figure with a loose torso joint, and I'd rather it wasn't this, so let's just pretend that isn't happening. Now, we have no cut at the hip or thigh, but personally I think that's a good thing. If we use, for example, this Cesaro, you know, he's rarely ever going to have his leg twisted like that, but it is a cut in the figure, so, you know, it is a noticeable thing. Whereas this King does not have that. It does have the full range of motion, like out and on that joint at the top, as well as the articulation I noticed in the first wave, where the legs can go up and down to allow a little bit more length on either leg, which gives it just a little bit more posability, which is nice. We've got the double jointed knees, of course, which is nice on a King figure with those powerful knee pads. There's no boot cut or anything. We do have the feet articulated on a ball joint, full range of motion there, and then the other leg just the same. That knee's maybe a little bit loose, actually. I mean, actually, hold on. Is that a ratchet joint? I think it is. It's definitely clicking, isn't it? It's like 1, 2, and then there's 3. Yep, again, the custard coloured boot, just same full range of motion, no cut at the top. I could maybe make more of a case that the boot would need turning than the thigh, but yeah, I think that's really cool. And of course, we've already talked about the tail, etc. So that's us more or less done with that. Now, again, taking a look at the accessories, we have the interchangeable hands. Yeah, they are just the same hand. I would have imagined they were the same hand. You know, we got blue pointing hand, we've got black pointing hand, but one thing we don't have is a thumbs down hand. You know, point, thumbs down. You know, that's a missed opportunity. I mean, you know, I guess they would have both had to be the same hand, but, you know, that's something that we definitely could have had. We also have the Power Blast, Power Burst, whatever you want to call this. I'm still not actually sure what the official term is, but it seems to be on all of the pictures it goes on his left hand, so maybe he's left-handed. And I want to say that that's going to clip in a bit better on that side anyway, because of that elbow pad. Maybe not. It actually just clips in pretty well. Whereas the others, the Heihachi one just kind of hangs on the end of his fist, and the Kazuya one does not clip in. But that actually does, you know, he can hold that to his side even. So that's pretty cool. And the final thing, possibly or even probably my favorite accessories, despite how useless they sort of are is the little perspex stand and the acrylic fight sign. And there we go. That is our King Tekken Game Dimensions action figure. Beautiful. Now, I did feel like even when we saw the first previews, and I had hoped when the first wave came out that, you know, these would get a bit better as they would go along. My opinion comparing these so far to Wave 1, although King is obviously a very toyetic character, I think that it is a huge improvement over the Wave 1 figures. So now we'll get that backdrop out the way, and we will take a look at the second figure in the wave, which is, of course, Jin Kazama. With the round 2 sign to follow on from the fight, we also have 2 interchangeable hands and the power burst, of course, in that kind of sinister red that Jin tends to have. We also have black and white attire, which is fairly standard for Jin, although I might have expected a solid black or something. And one thing you might worry about seeing this online, and indeed if you see this in a shop, is that you actually can't see any articulation in his legs. Like, there is nothing there. But if you take a look on the back of the box, you can see that the knees are bent. So what I'm thinking is going on here is that the articulation is behind this rubber suit, which I'm imagining is made of the same material as the Heihachi, which I found really rather satisfying in terms of texture. So there's the figure again. We can't really see it all too well in terms of the face, etc., because it's kind of blocked out by the lighting. But we can see how nice his attire is there. That looks really, really good. And of course, we've got the Tekken 8 render of him there. All the other usual stuff. We've got the render on the back where he looks nowhere near as good as the figure actually does, of course. Although, granted, this looks pretty nice. Like I say, I think seeing a grey Jin rather than a black Jin on the promos was maybe a little bit off-putting, especially when it was like following up this. But, you know, the detail on this thing, the art and everything is really, really cool. We've, of course, got the Tekken 8 images there and all the usual legal mumbo-jumbo on the bottom. And we are just going to cut into this like we cut into King and take a look at this. Again, we've just got that one circular piece of tape at the top, which doesn't apparently want to cut through. Imagine having to saw through a piece of tape. There we go. I do think that the packaging and everything for these is really, really good. It's one thing I definitely can't fault with this this line. Again, we've got the backdrop there, which is just like in Wave 1, the other half of the other backdrop. And then, of course, we're going to put that bit of tape on the bubble flap. I don't know what else you call this. The door. Try not to have the scissors run right the way through like I did with the King. So that didn't make me feel good. Oh, he's got some tape on the bottom as well, has he? Okay, cool, cool. Right. Again, I'm going to open that flap. Everything's going to fall out. Except for the base. Except the base of the stand. And then we're going to slide Jin out like that. Wow, okay, this is interesting. Okay. First of all, his foot is taped into the bubble. That's cool. Second of all, his feet are kind of wrapped up and cardboarded up. Very interesting. I'm not familiar with this kind of thing at all. I have no idea what that's made of, but cool, I guess. It does just come straight off. You know, in one go, you don't have to prat about taking the plastic off and then taking the tape off or anything. It is just tape. It's not, I thought it was like plastic wrap at first. And as you can see, there we go. There's the articulated knee on the inside. I will admit, when I first noticed it, it did worry me a little bit. So this is what Jin is looking like. The face doesn't really capture your imagination quite as King's does, but it's not bad at all. It would be difficult to say that there's been any real kind of development between Kazuya and Heihachi to this Jin. It kind of looks like, you know, they haven't really finessed the formula a whole bunch since then, but we've got his kind of fringe in there. And now, of course, we've got the Kazuya bulb for his hair as well. The torso looks okay. You know, it looks more human than on the render. Looks like actual skin. We have really, really cool kind of, what would you call this? Like those bits, and then his gauntlets are really cool as well, with the knuckle dusters on the back and everything. Yeah, just really, really cool gear. We've got a nice bit of kind of detail around there in the plastic as well. You can see kind of detailing on his gloves as well there, which is really cool. And of course, like the first wave figures, we have this belt around his waist, this nice red belt, which is kind of fully detailed as well. This is the same material as Heihachi, which is interesting because Heihachi wasn't like this. You know, Heihachi wasn't concealed by it. And it does give me some cause for concern, as the Heihachi gave me at the time, in terms of longevity, whether there's any chance of this expiring, being rubber, etc. It's a little bit alarming, I won't lie. But it's kind of cool the way it hides the articulation, but it still works. You know, it still functions perfectly. And in fact, we still have that articulation, that hip joint that lets us put the legs right up, or one up, one down, or anything like that. The fact that this is actually the same material, just over the crotch and the waist kind of area. Of course, we've got this beautiful art around the side of both pant legs, and we can see that kind of all the way around. Really, really nicely done, really nicely designed. Of course, he only has like half of a design on that leg, which is pretty standard for Jin. And then, of course, since we can't really see the joints down here, there's not really anything in terms of details to look at. But we got the full range of motion on the foot. But just like the Kazuya and Heihachi, it is kind of restricted by what this bootleg can do. Although maybe you can make it a little bit more malleable since the rubber is open, you know. So now again, we'll get into the articulation and the condition of the joints. So first of all, we've got the head with full range of motion there. It can look up, it can look around. It's cool. And as you see in there, it's got the articulated neck I mentioned with King as well. So it can look a little bit further down, and you can turn it at the neck, etc. as well. If you can reach it. Kind of hard to behind all that head. Then going into the arms, we again kind of have that full butterfly joint, but his shoulders are much smaller than King's, so it doesn't really move as far. We've got ratchet joint in the shoulder, which is pretty cool. I don't know if we looked at the, can't remember if we looked at the ratchetiness or lack thereof in King's. That biceps may be a little bit loose, and that elbow is all right, but it's not great. And you can see where the elbow is kind of hidden by the gauntlet there, which is pretty cool. And the wrist, just the same as King's, interchangeable hand on a articulated joint. Again, we have the waist, we have the lean joint there. He could go forward slightly, but not really. And he can go back a fair bit, to be fair. Not really anything compared to King. Definitely can't move any further than that. He can do a nice bow, but you know, still a nice feature. And the ab joint on this particular one is pretty good. Of course, we have a full turn in there as well. Shoulder, exactly the same. That one isn't ratcheted. Maybe that's why we weren't talking about it with King. Maybe it's not supposed to be. Maybe they aren't supposed to be like that. Biceps, probably more or less the same. Elbows fine, and these actually feel tougher than King's hands, so that's cool. And again, we go into the leg. I mean, you can kind of see just by me doing that, the folds in there, and I'm just thinking, is it going to rip here? Are these going to turn into like little tears over time? Like, oh, you can see there. There's definitely some cracking going on there. Is that in the paint? I think that's in the paint, but it's going to ruin that beautiful paint on the side of that leg. That is not very well designed, and I think I'm going to live in fear of actually using this figure for any particular reason. And of course, the boots, as I say, the feet rather, go right the way around. They are relatively flat, the Tekken feet. a lot of action figures with like feet and stuff, particularly like your WWE Elites, which I'm obviously a big user of. A lot of people with feet, they don't stand up particularly flat, but they are really flat. Like that is one complaint I cannot make about this action figure line. In terms of accessories, again, Jin just has the two nearly said something different there, interchangeable hands, the kind of grip hands, the parry hands, whatever you want to call those. And of course he has the power burst as well. We'll pause that on his right hand. His is more like Kazuya's, but it stays on a bit better. You know, it kind of there is a bit of a clip there. Like, it's not just going to completely fall off straight away. That's really cool. A nice sinister kind of red energy that Jin harnesses. And of course, finally, we have the round 2 stand. So again, while that rubber thing is a little bit of a yikes, I think that this is a perfectly fine figure. I'm more inclined to spend money on King. I think this is just a better figure. I think this is the best figure in the line so far, quite frankly. But, you know, I definitely would still call this a needs-must thing. You know, if you don't want to pay for the Storm Collectibles figures and you do want Tekken figures, then you've got to. But it is a little bit disappointing, and I'm still not convinced that we are getting our money's worth out of, you know, the retail price for these things, even when you're as in love with something as I am with this King. So I think that more or less brings us to the end of the video, really. So as a final review, obviously I think that King is the best figure this line has produced so far, even with the big waist gap, which kind of sucks. And the thumbs down thing, it sounds like a little thing, but it's, you know, that would be really cool. And I've decided what they should have done is that in wrestling figures, they used to give Umaga hands where he had like a thumb like this, and you could still use it as a fist, but obviously King would be able to do the thumbs down. I think that would be really cool. I don't think the Jin has come on all that much from the first wave figures. Like, when compared with Heihachi and Kazuya, I don't think there's been all that much development there. However, I think King shows the design that they are capable with, perhaps with inhuman characters, or rather with, you know, with characters that don't have a regular face, characters with masks and, you know, big, bold kind of attires and whatnot, which might give us hope that a Yoshimitsu would be really, really cool. And now what I want to finish this video off is answering another question a lot of people asked with the first wave. I'm sure a lot of people know by now, but I'm sure some people will still be wondering, and that is what the scale of these figures is. So they're about 6.5 inches, with King obviously being quite a bit bigger than standard, and Kazuya was a bit taller than Heihachi as well. In fact, let's put them all together and see. And maybe the reason why Heihachi is different to Jin is because only his top is rubber, whereas Jin's like trousers are rubber. And in fact, I think that Heihachi might have been the better design. I do have concerns over Heihachi's gi, like the top of his gi, but not as much so as I do over that crack in the side of Jin's. That really is a design flaw if that's going to deteriorate over time. And either way, I am going to be terrified of using it. But anyway, I think we can see here that Jin is perhaps slightly taller than Kazuya. It looks like he stands up a bit straighter than him, to be fair. So maybe slightly taller there. King obviously quite a bit taller than both of them, and Heihachi the smallest of the lot at the end there. Now, how do they scale with other figures? Next to a standard Marvel Legends Hand Ninja, I'm pretty sure Heihachi is more or less the same size, and Kazuya is slightly taller, as you can see there. And if we compare them to a WWE Elite, which is my craft, then this being Cesaro, pretty standard height, is a bit taller than him. But if you compare him and King, King is still bigger than, well, actually, they're more or less the same size, which is really nice because that's what I want to use King with. I wouldn't mind if King was a bit bigger, since he's meant to be like a big, larger-than-life character, but smaller probably would have been a bit weird, especially depending on who he's fighting. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and let me know any questions you would like to know before purchasing these. And check out the Kazuya and Heihachi video in the end screen as well, if you haven't seen that one already. And if you have seen that one already, thank you very much for watching. Either way, there will be more content in the end screen, and thank you all for joining me. I'm sorry for keeping you so long, but you know, I think going into detail with figures like this is really helpful when people are wondering whether to buy or not. So thank you all for sticking around this long. Thank you for joining me in the first place, and goodbye. Hey guys, welcome to the video today. Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I have a really cool video, and it is the second wave of the Tekken Game Dimensions action figures, and we have them here in this box, which does have a huge dent in the top. And oh look, the floodlight died immediately despite getting through a 10-minute video earlier. Now I've deployed the stunt floodlight. Now I've deployed the stunt floodlight, but wouldn't this be the day where the battery finally dies in it? Now that I'm doing a pretty cool video. Here's a picture of King from Tekken 8, of course. Oops.